Every once in a while, you'll find somebody doing underground music because the mainstream language isn't really big enough for all the words that they're trying to express, so they got to push it.
It's a cool winter morning in Philadelphia in front of a giant museum, a beautiful marble building in the middle of massive Fairmount Park known as the Please Touch Museum. Snow's covered the open spaces, and just a few dozen paces from his car, Ed Wilcox has assembled his drum set and now proceeds to play along to a phone app, tuning in radio stations from around the world. Ed likes to set his drums up outdoors as long as it's not raining. Gets him motivated to play.
I'm actually kind of lazy, and if I was just going to stay home and play the drums, I'd just be watching football or something, you know. And so I sort of force myself. You know, you have to know yourself.
Then you might as well play, since you put so much effort into the lugging of the drums.
Yeah, so there's a wonderful park, and it's good practice also because there's you become a magnet for little kids, and if you are not kicking it, they'll just be like taking the sticks at you. Let me play. I play better than you. Where do you want to play? So you gotta like be on, and so yeah, I've just done that for 20, 30 years, you know.
Ed Wilcox is our guest today. Drummer, band leader, singer. Philadelphia-based Temple of Bon Matin. One thing about the band you might already recognize. They're loud. I spoke with Ed in his kitchen in West Philly. For Low Profile, I'm Carl Blau, filling in for Mark Lee Morrison. In this interview, Ed Wilcox shares 30 years of stories recording and performing in Temple of Bon Matin. He talks about his grandmother, his love for the Sex Pistols, and more.
Very honored that Carl, that you want to talk to me about some stuff, you know. We'll make it a nice, fun evening. We might have started playing around, 1990 or something, but I actually had kind of I kind of came to music. I didn't really start playing music till most guys quit. I didn't have a drum kit till I was about 26, 27 years old. And I had always wanted one. I'd always wanted to play, but we moved around the world constantly when I was a kid, and then kind of a broken home, poverty, it just wasn't feasible. And then I've told this story before. I was kind of raised by my grandmother, and she had died about a year before. It was my 26th birthday. And she had died about a year before. I go down to the mailbox, and there's a check for $1,000 from my grandmother. I don't know how that happened, but I bought my first drum kit. When I was young, I goofed around on a lot of different instruments, but what really attracted me most was the drums, and not so much of the hitting of the drums, but the sound. You know, if you percussion, you know, and especially Eastern music, you know, the tablas and the gamelons and all that kind of music. That's always been my first love, you know, and so being able to combine music influenced by that with this, you know, deafeningly loud racket is a treat. We were the loudest band to ever play CBGB. We had played there, and we got off stage one night, and the sound guy, he's like, you know, Louise Parnassa, who booked CBGB, she said, Louise loves you guys, but you're so loud. I don't know if you can play here anymore. And we like, you know, we were like quizzing them, like, better than, louder than Live Skull, louder than Blind Idiot God, yes. And I'm like, yes. You know, but you know, 99% of it is me
Okay.
singing. Yeah.
How does that feel, like playing drums that loud and singing like you do, kind of the top of your lungs? I mean, you're just like expressing yourself with every limb and your whole person.
It's tiring. It's you know what it did, and I heard this actually said about Ringo once, that it changes your drumming a bit. You know, you just can't get too fancy. You know, but you know, it's sort of, and which actually I in retrospect I like it. You know, you have to sort of streamline things a bit. And I think it was good maybe as a band leader. Often, you know, a good drummer, you're kind of directing traffic, you know, you're like a symphony conductor, you know, bring this guy up a little louder, high accent this guy, you know, and but when you're also singing, you're kind of controlling the band, you know, top to bottom. You know, you need guys to kind of try to hit certain cues and bring the volume down and stuff. Occasionally we had some some folks doing a little bit of backup, especially, well, if you're from Philly, you might know Laura Bloom. She sings in a group called Radio Eris. Wonderful group. They're sort of like the Doors, but with a cool girl singing for them, you know. Lyrics were all written down. The music, I mean, basically, less improvised than you might think. Maybe it says something about us. It all came very natural. To us, it seemed very normal. You know, other people thought we were out of our minds. A lot of the tunes kind of came from the group jamming, you know. There would probably be a lot of improvisation in practice. A lot of jamming. But then, you know, if we got something, especially if Trevor came up with a lick he liked, we'd just keep using it, you know.
Okay, so Trevor was writing those songs on the first record, and then you added a keyboard player in later years who kind of became part of the backbone of the band. Is that, I just read that, but is that not true?
No, I would say no, almost the opposite. You know what? The very early stuff was me and a keyboard player, John Mulvaney, who John actually kind of left the group. He came back for a bit, but he's also a very good painter. Very good artist, and I think he wanted to just focus more on that, you know, especially as we started becoming more active and touring and stuff. Yeah, John was, I would say, John maybe a little bit of the Syd Barrett of Temple of Bon Matin. It was originally kind of almost his baby. But then he kind of drifted away, you know. We would allow a lot of people to sit in, you know. They'd have to come, you know, maybe make a couple of practices, but we were certainly open to letting people sit in. And then but then when that band kind of collapsed, I was fortunate enough, I had been playing in a punk band with Frank Bradley, great guitar player, and I had been playing in another group with Rich Lamb, fantastic bass player. And when I, you know, rebuilt Temple of Bon Matin, I suckered those friends of mine into it, and we sort of, you know, built it up from there. And those guys were just fantastic musicians. I loved them, and we did a lot of touring. That band was. Man, we you know, just every weekend out of town, you know.
How are you getting shows? Were you sending tapes to venues to get shows?
Yeah, I mean, we were very lucky. The first album, it got some good press, you know. It was on Silk Breeze, which was a very hip record label. And you could pretty much do anything, good or bad, on Silk Breeze, and critics would have loved it, you know. So that got us some mileage. And then Bulb Records out of Detroit wanted another album from us. Toured and really amazing because I mean we worship the Sex Pistols, and we were pretty much after about a year we were almost like, yeah, you guys are not allowed to perform here, you know. And we were just starting wars. Gigs and get shut down
with shenanigans, or what were you doing to get to just
the I think the aggressiveness,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, so loud, and we would just be. I don't know, you know, one of those things where I don't know how we lived, you know, like, you know, drunk off our minds. I mean, no, like hardcore drugs, but just like, man, how did, you know?
Can you describe so around this era, like your tour rig, what were you making it to shows in? Like,
I just had a beat up old van, and yeah, you know, basically, almost every weekend. Okay, everybody try to get off work a little early Friday, because we have to be in Pittsburgh by 9:30, and then Saturday night we're in Columbus, Ohio, and then Sunday is Youngstown, and but we'll be back by dawn on Monday, so everybody could get to work. I've always been a blue collar. I'm a truck driver right now. We've all been, back then we were younger, but yeah, pretty much all, carpenters and stuff, and
gotta get to work on Monday morning.
Yeah, and just pounding it out. But
so yeah, I mean, this is an art project of just like love, basically.
Oh, sure. I'm sure
you're not getting paid at these gigs, presumably, or
I mean, you'd get maybe gas money
because you're like splitting it between a bunch of people anyway.
Of
so
course,
it's like,
of course,
it's not.
But
you're not out to make money on this gig.
Well, we would have loved it, but if you're trying to be the Sex Pistols, they might not want. But but yeah, just great guys, And then we ended up actually having a wonderful girl. We had one of the most phenomenal just guitar players ever. Who we had a young lady named Linda Ciernock who joined the band. And I was also in a girl band. I've frequently been in like 4 or 5 bands at the same time. And I was in a girl band called Foxcatcher, and Linda would always come to Temple Bon Matin shows, and she would always want to sit in. And we're like, no, we were like it was like a boys, no girls in the 4, and we would always put her off, and then we finally were like, well, we had started. See, we were so, critics were so nice to us that we would just be horrible and try to know. So we would just after a while we just started doing Van Halen covers, and even that they loved it, and I remember telling this Linda, you know, it's all Van Halen now. You got to get a flanger or a phaser to to fit in. And about a week later, we're loading out. 2 in the morning. We're finishing a show. This girl comes walking down the street, opens up her purse, pulls out a flanger. Oh crap! Okay. Tuesday night practice. All right.
And you had to clean up your act a little bit.
No, she was wonderful. I mean, she was she knew us. She was great. But I would say this. It really. I had been fortunate playing in this girls group where you realize the crap that women go through. I mean, both of these young ladies that this group Foxcatcher that I was in, both of them were single mothers, so the only time that they could get grandma to look after the kid was Wednesday mornings. So we're practicing like Wednesday morning, but man, they were there and they learned those tunes. Bam, bam. It meant so much to them, and they had so little time. So they really, the work ethic there, yes, and I found, and in general, yeah, women. After that, I don't think I really had a version of Temple of Bon Matin that didn't have a woman in it. We had a lot of girls, and it was interesting because we often got a lot of flack. You think rock and roll is very open-minded.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
So I'm probably walking into a minefield here. I think in a very, very broad sense, women maybe hear music a little differently. Guys will really nerd out about like a hot guitar soloist, it was that guy shredding, I think women, they like more of a groove kind of thing. For me, as I was becoming more the leader of the band, I really, you really appreciate you appreciate someone who sort of sees the big picture, and sometimes guys are just anxious to start wanking on shredding. Guitar player. I mean, she could certainly, rip a solo like anybody, but more this lovely, real hip, like Carlos Alomar kind of, very hip groove kind of stuff, Yeah, probably 94, 95, and then Linda. And then basically the guys on Enduro all moved to California to become surfers, and didn't take me with them. And and that left me and Linda rebuilding the group. And then that's when we did the Bullet into Mesmer's Brain.
Will I even notice that I came? Bullets into Mesmer's brain. Bullets into Mesmer's brain. Never when I don't. I got the thick Tracy drums and keys. You're an old man, Texas son. You in Babylon underneath. You in Babylon. Country boy. I can't get no fish. Bullets in the Mesmer's brain. You in a submarine. You in a heartbeat. You in a magazine like the moonbeam. I am the rebel, rockin' ass, cowboy, you neglect. Boy,
I think maybe for a little while we had gone about as far as like a rock and roll kind of band. I mean, we really were like getting like, no, you guys, you set fire to the club. You're not allowed to come back here for a while, and I was also starting to learn how to use a recording studio, and we were tremendously fortunate that we had a dear friend who had a beautiful studio and would let us use it for cheap. And
what is cheap in those days?
we were doing like $15-20 an hour, and he had beautiful equipment and allowed me to mess around with it. A lot of studios don't let you touch the stuff, but my friend Jeff Kohlmeyer, really they talk about George Martin, the fifth Beatle. Jeff Kohlmeyer was so important with Temple of Bon Matin, and so we got Bullet in Mesmer's Brain, and I had wanted to do something. I didn't want it. We were doing a little more of a hippie jazz kind of stuff, but it didn't.
Was this like 97?
Probably, yeah.
Like getting later in the 90s.
Yeah, but I was really getting into kind of producing kind of a, sort of Lee Perry stuff. Way too much echo on the low end, but also. I think we kind of wanted to do something. Did you ever hear the Faust tapes? An album by Faust, great German avant-garde rock band, and they have this album, the Faust tapes. It basically just sounds like one sort of collage, or even something like the Beatles, Revolution Number 9. It's just pieced together kind of stuff. And so that we were using, I would just tape little goofy things off my shortwave radio and added that into the mix, and then just really just chopped up all these jams.
You're working with tape here, presumably, or is it?
It was. Let me think. It was ADAT.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned, because
Okay.
man, I was just talking with a friend. Like, I loved ADAT. It's like so extinct, but it was beautiful. I think it gave you like the warmth and the headroom of tape, but you could still. It was easier to work with, like a digital thing. I loved it, man. It was,
And you could push the rewind, and it actually rewound a tape. There
Yes,
actually was a tape in
yes,
there. It just
yes,
digitally
yes,
recorded on it.
Yes.
I know that was an era.
Hey, that was great, but
They would break down, and that was their bane.
well, it was one of those things where it was so good, but it was also so cheap that it was making all the other forms of recording kind of a little nervous. So like, oh, we got to kill this, But yeah, hey, that was great sound quality. But so we put that Bullet in the Mesmer's Brain, and we were able to do some touring off of that. And
So Bullet in the Mesmer's Brain, you recorded kind of collage stuff with it. You went into the studio with songs, or
there was a couple of the band members knew the songs, and a couple of them didn't. but we had the great Charles Cohen on synthesizers on that record, and I was kind of just letting it float. I on that album, in terms of sort of like Philadelphia, hip musicians, I had like the top guys in the city playing on that record. So I just kind of let them do
Greg
what they want.
Chapman on the synth.
Oh yeah, from New Jersey.
Steve Oh gosh, and he gets.
Oh, Steve Buchanan.
Buchanan.
He plays. He was on. There was some live stuff he was sitting in. Steve Buchanan played a lot with Fred Frith. He lives in Europe, and yeah, he plays. I think
Rick Brackbill was doing the turntables
Yeah.
and guitar and some guitar.
Yeah. Rick was a great. We again. It's one of these things where I think we caught a lot of flack at the time because a rock band bringing in a guy on turntables. People were not having it. Now it's like everybody does it. But also Rick was so hip in terms of what he was using. He was just scratching with these Sesame Street records and the goofiest stuff and playing really playing very hip with it, added a lot.
When you have attained that level of awareness of the unity of the male and female principles, everything just becomes one. What does it matter whether you're talking of genitals?
If you're enjoying Low Profile, please do us a favor and share a favorite episode on social media. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts, leave us a rating and review on iTunes, and tell your friends. It really helps the show grow and helps me to be able to keep this going. On a side note, you might notice some cool cartoons accompanying these episodes in Season 4. These illustrations were drawn by Taylor W. Rushing. To find out more about his work and see his art, as well as some limited edition prints and merchandise, you can visit taylorwrushing.com or find him on Instagram at twrushing.
Cabin in the Sky, I had recently discovered. I've always loved the Jefferson Airplane, but I had recently discovered the Blows Against the Empire. You know that record? It was just after. It was like, I think when Yorma and Jack left for Hot Tuna, but then you had the other guys. You had Paul Kantner and Grace Slick, and then they brought in. Oh, it's a phenomenal lineup of people. All the San Francisco All-Stars, Jerry Garcia on pedal steel, and some guys from Quicksilver Messenger Service, and David Crosby. It's great singing on that record too, Gracie Slick and Dave Crosby, and I'm thinking, was it Friedman, the guy who sang with Quicksilver? Amazing. And it was this kind of, it's like a science fiction story. I think it won a Hugo Award, like a science fiction story award. It's a science fiction sort of concept album, but there's a lot of folk music to it also. The whole album is great, just again sort of really blends into one long song. But, have you seen the stars tonight? Magic, beautiful. Some of the most beautiful pedal steel guitar you've ever heard. And so did that record, and it got some nice reviews, but good band, managed to get some good touring, and then I think right around then I was briefly married. My first wife was starting to play with us, Leslie Q, who had a lot of albums out on her own. And yeah, toured a lot.
So that's Cabin in the Sky came out in 2001?
Wow, could be. I'm going to say maybe, probably, yes.
So Cabin. So each of these records you would tour after putting them out.
Yeah.
And that's not by contract necessarily. This is just your.
No,
I
wish.
You guys just want to play the record out and get it out in front of people.
Yes, yeah. We did a lot. We did hundreds and hundreds of shows. Temple of Bon Matin. Yeah. very fortunate. And then
So Cabin in the Sky, and then what? Is Infidel that come out on Norman, or was that on Spirit?
that was
Spirit of War?
Spirit
Norman
of
does it now.
War, yeah.
So Infidel came out on Spirit of War
Yeah.
in 2005.
Wow, yeah. I think with that, well, okay, the very first thing I ever learned how to play on the drums. Did you ever hear Four Enclosed Walls by Public Image Limited from the Flowers of Romance album, which was great, especially if you're a drummer. I don't care what kind of music, what kind of drums you like. Any drummer should check out Flowers of Romance by Public Image. It was a group where basically Johnny Rotten had just alienated everybody in the group. So it was just him and the drummer pretty much left. But mainly Martin Atkins. But the drumming is just very sort of tribal but very melodic. You know, each tune has very distinctive drum grooves. So I had been wanting to explore that more. As I was writing more and more of the music in the band too, I had gone from just the lyricist to actually writing all the music. But
By the time Infidel, or even before
yeah,
that?
even starting probably with Cabin in the Sky, but certainly on Infidel, I was pretty much writing everything, and I kind of enjoyed. I'd come up with my little licks on the bass and show them to the guys in the group, but I enjoyed playing the melodies on the drums too. So if you hear that record, I think, some tunes like Bad Girl, some of those tunes where, looking back, you'll definitely hear a Public Image kind of influence there, lots of pounding drums and feedback, People telling me they had learned the tunes, but basically just playing like feedback and stuff. But a good group, toured a lot with those guys. A lot. We played the West Coast constantly.
Where would you play on the West Coast? Do you remember any of the...
L.A. a lot. What was it? The Smell in L.A. It was kind of like Philly has the Painted Bright Art Center. L.A. had the Smell, but it was kind of a cool art center. Lots of little clubs. Places in San Diego. We played in the Hemlock Tavern in San Francisco a lot.
Go ahead!
got picked up by Ruby Red, a label from Portugal, and they put out, let me think, Flower-Footed Ghost. Flower-Footed Ghost is a real dreamy. I had finally moved back to Florida also, and I had not heard that album in a decade at least, and somebody recently played it for me, and
So is this like 2007 or 8?
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say my earliest memories of sound. I was a little boy. I grew up in Florida when it was still like dirt roads, you know, and at night, you know, we'd driving around at night, coming back from, you know, whatever, you know, being a little kid, and you're just out in the swamps. You know, it's just flat for miles, and you could hear these sugar factories clanging away in the middle of the night. You'd just see these little lights on the horizon. You'd hear like gongs. You'd hear echoing over the water, and real swampy, you know, like, you know, hanging in that swampy air. And when I think back, if you hear Flower-Footed Ghost, it's really swampy sounding. I was living near Miami at the time. That's probably one reason it was also getting harder for the band to practice, was because, you know, our bass player lived in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and I lived in Miami, so, you know, we hung in. You know, Eric Bailey is his name. He was actually the bass player in Temple of Bon Matin for a decade, and if we get it up and running again, he'll be there for sure again. One of my dearest friends, but you can just hear that, you know, it a little bit of a Can-like feel, but if Can were recording in some you know, jungle hut, you know, kind of thing.
So did that take you to Europe then?
We were playing a lot. We did, I think we did 5 tours in Europe. No, well, with a few different records. Probably with the group that did Monkey Straw Raincoat. We were probably doing that, and then there was some bands, kind of rock bands, noisy rock bands in Jersey that we were friends with, and some of those guys were playing in Temple of Bon Matin at that time. Jay Reeve, Vinnie Paternostro, great musicians, and yeah, we played over there, and I've been lucky. I played Europe a bunch of times with Marshall Allen and with Daniel Carter, beautiful trumpeter from New York, and we played. Well, I did. It was almost like a solo tour of South America, but with my friend Zach Koons. That's a guy you should look up. Zach is a really legend, the Walt Whitman of American underground music, and yeah, so we were touring a lot with that.
Someone said you are Ed Wilcox is a living sea shanty.
I don't know what that means. I gotta be sick. It's very nice, very nice. I'm not sure what that means. Hopefully it's good. I'm trying to think of sea shit. Blow the man down. I would say a lot of the music I'm playing now. One of the projects I'm in, Pure Enchantment, is the name of that group, and with my friend Turner Williams, who plays sort of like
Humid
a
Mysterioso. Is that one of the records?
Yeah,
you guys-
yeah.
Okay, I just saw
I'll
that
see if
this
I can-
morning, and it's a really beautiful sounding record.
Oh, thank you. I was
so-
going to give you one, but I'm like, I don't know if I got one, but I'm glad you heard
Well,
it.
it's on Bandcamp.
Oh, good, good.
That's where I do a lot of my shopping.
I'm old and unaware of much, but yes, and that's certainly we think of ourselves as being influenced by Middle Eastern music. It probably just sounds like Sonic Youth or something, but we
Like the scales and the kind of just
yes,
the
and
feeling.
certainly the rhythms that I use.
Are you playing drums in that
Yes,
group?
yes, yeah, pretty much just drums for that.
I asked Ed a little later about some of these bootleg recordings you can find on Bandcamp.
Your Springwater Tavern in Nashville, a punk squat in Louisville, and Left of Lexington Festival.
Wow, I don't even remember. I have no recollection. I was probably still in my Keith Moon phase. The Springwater is great. I think it's still open. I think they were in a little bit of trouble for a while, but I think they're back up and running soon. That was Springwater. If you ever go to Nashville, it's a beautiful park downtown, and they had built the Parthenon for some reason in the it was like an 1880 World Expo or something in Nashville, and the city founder said, well, what Nashville needs the world to see is the Parthenon. So there's a Parthenon, and then right next to it is this shack, called the Springwater. Springwater, almost like the chicken wire in front of the stage kind of place, but a wonderful club. I had played there. I played there a lot. I used to play a lot with this saxophone player Arthur Doyle, and we were walking in there one night, and I said, Arthur, is this a dive? And Arthur said, no, it's a juke joint. One time, The Wire magazine, they asked, famous musicians, what was the best concert you ever saw, And Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth said, the best concert I ever saw was Arthur Doyle. And he had this white trash kid playing drums, I have kind of a compilation that we're going to try to get released called Road Work, which is just
Like a box set you're talking about?
it's just one CD. It's about maybe a dozen. It's all live. It's just kind of like maybe one song from sort of for each era of the band live. Boom, boom, boom. And I always loved. But I had just discovered the album Roadwork by the Winters Brothers, who had that great band called White Trash. They're both albinos, from Texas. And so when I put together this live Temple of Bon Matin thing, we called it Roadwork, and sort of stole the artwork and stuff.
We can expect that maybe next.
I hope so. I would like to see it. I would like to see it actually, maybe probably a CD. It's about 70 minutes worth of stuff. Um, we could put it out. I've had a lot of people wanting to just release it on the internet, but I think it would get lost. We got that double-edged sword, and it's so people are. It's sad that it seems to have taken like decades for people to get it, where the releasing music on the internet, it's on one hand it's great because it's so easy to do, anybody can do it, but it's bad because anybody can do it. So you're just swamped with stuff, and it's very hard to get critics to review stuff because they're just like, I don't even know where to begin. If you're fortunate enough to have a physical thing, especially if you've suckered some poor other guy into paying to have it released, you do get a little bit of buzz, and that just helps you to poke your head out of the water. Even though I play a lot of very loud music, I love a lot of the old 50s California cool jazz drummers, Chico Hamilton and Shelly Manne. Those guys who just play with brushes and they'd really get into like the tones of the instruments. So I am enjoying working with those guys, and I play. I'm in a group called Stolen Moments, which does pretty much just jazz standards. I work with a wonderful guitar player from Bali, Dion Sujatmiko, lives up in New York. Plays guitar like Pops Staples. With him, we play these beautiful Indonesian festivals. The food is just insane, and looking forward to doing some more of that. Oh man, Carl, yeah, that's
as far as like Ed Wilcox pursuit.
I've been recording a lot of drums lately. I have a couple friends. My friend Turner from Pure Enchantment, who had the wisdom to marry a lovely girl from the south of France, and is there now. And but I've been recording a lot of drum tracks, sending them to him, and my friend Zach Coons, who's living out in the Appalachians, and so I'll be sending stuff out to him, and they can overdub. We do play together when we can, but it's last year, it's been difficult, but yeah, sending out lots of hours and hours of tunes on the drums, and let those guys overdub stuff on them. And I do always think about the kindness of strangers, but I think about my grandmother, and a lot of people, they get into underground or avant-garde music. A lot of it's just kind of to annoy people, and I never wanted to do that. Every once in a while, you'll find somebody doing underground music because the mainstream language isn't really big enough for all the words that they're trying to express, so they got to push it, and that's how I've usually tried to see myself. the people that I'm usually with. You know, I never wanted to do anything that would embarrass my grandmother. You know, no matter, you know, even if I'm hammered with no shirt, you know, throwing things around, you know, but you want to come at it with your heart in the right place, you know. I never wanted people to come and see me and leave in a bad mood, you know. No matter what kind of music I was playing. I always want people to feel like, oh, I feel a little different. I feel a little better, you know.
We've been listening to Ed Wilcox talk about his band Temple of Bon Matin. This has been Carl Blau for Low Profile.